Shootings, stabbings, robberies, and random attacks. Violent crimes are making headlines in Hawaii. Communities are demanding answers on what's being done to end the violence. Are laws tough enough to make a difference? And do police and other crime-fighting agencies have enough resources to do their jobs effectively? Tonight's live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Yanji Denise. A deadly shooting, a late-night stabbing, a brutal kidnapping. These are all crimes police in Hawaii say they're investigating, and they've all happened in just the last few weeks. Yet the apparent surge in violent crime has been going on for much longer, and residents are not only scared but fed up. So what can be done? We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email or call in your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and on the PBS Hawaii Facebook and YouTube pages. Now to our guests. Steve Alm is the Honolulu City Prosecutor. He started at the prosecutor's office in 1985 as a deputy, later becoming a federal prosecutor and then a circuit court judge. Keith Horikawa is a deputy chief in the Honolulu Police Department. He's been with the department for 29 years and has served on several interagency task forces with the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security. He's also a colonel in the Army Reserve. Calvin Endo is a member of the Waianae Coast Neighborhood Board and chair of the board's Education and Safety Committee. He and his wife Susan are the proud parents of 11 children. And Honolulu City Council member Val Aquino Okimoto represents parts of Aiea, Pearl City, Waipio, and Mililani. She's also the chair of the council's Public Safety Committee. Thank you all for being here tonight. I want to start with you, Prosecutor, about what we're feeling and what is the actual numbers, because I think in the news repeatedly it feels like we see violent crime reported almost on a daily basis. What are the numbers actually showing?
I think that's one of the real challenges. Crime is actually down all over the island, and in fact it's like half of what it was in the 90s. But people feel less safe, and so that's the perception that's got to be dealt with. So even District 8 is a huge district with, running from Ewa Beach all the way through the Waianae Coast. Numbers are down there in almost all categories. Now, one of the problems, though, is on the west side, last year there were more murders than ever. And that's really problematic. It's usually 1 or 2 a year. Last year it was 8. And so that's something that really has to be addressed. And we're all working very hard. We're working with HPD. We're working with community groups because they can play a big role too. So part of it is people should know the numbers are actually down, but because it gets reported a lot and people see that in social media, I think their feeling is it's up. And so we've got to work on that. We've got to work with everybody to try to do whatever strategies we can to actually reduce it even further.
Calvin, I want to ask you about that feeling versus the numbers that the Honolulu City Prosecutor is bringing us tonight. From someone who lives in one of the communities that we seem to hear a lot about on the news, how does it feel to you?
It's kind of scary, especially when I have a bunch of grandkids who, as we was talking earlier, and I'm very involved with the community and the schools, and to have our kids walking around sometimes in fear because of the things that's been happening, it's not a good thing for them to grow up in that environment. I grew up in that environment, so I know what it's like.
Deputy Chief Horikawa, we referenced resources at the top of the program, and I know that Chief Logan, when he was brought in, really made this pledge to try to increase recruitment and retention on the force. He has not been successful in that. The numbers are pretty much the same as when he started in terms of the vacancy rate. Not for a lack of trying, of course, but I'm interested to know how you think the large number of vacancies, over 300 officers needed, impacts the police department's ability to patrol.
It does have an impact, and we're actually a little over 400 in our vacancies right now. But at the same time, we do prioritize our resources or people to go in the places that's most needed. So of course we're going to resource and we're going to fill our patrol positions, as much as we can. We are a big department. We have 8 patrol districts, but we also have a number of non-patrol districts, ranging from administrative units to investigative units. So although each division is important, but we do surge our manpower to where we feel is needed. So we do, of course, put our people into patrol. So in that regard, we're not really too deficient in the patrol side of the house. I think our beat staffing has been the same, over the last about 10 years or more. So in that regard, yeah, I mean, our people on the road are present and doing their jobs.
Okay. Councilmember Okimoto, I'm interested because the mayor's budget puts aside $25,000 as a hiring incentive for new recruits to try to get more people to join the force. What other steps, in addition to that one, do you think that the council could take on a financial level to try to bring more officers so that we're not facing 400 plus officers vacant?
Great question, Yunji. Thank you for asking. Almost 2 years ago when I first got into the council, over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, this was a topic. And we're in budget season now, and this is a crucial time where we have to figure out where we're going to allocate our resources. And in our last fiscal year, that was something that we put great emphasis on what can we do to help the department. We're continuing to do so. There was a lot of discussion on how we even think out of the box, be creative with the funding and where they're being placed. I was really happy to hear the mayor, surprised actually, but happy to hear that he had this big incentive, because we want to encourage our citizens to then be able to join the forces. But I think we continue to put money into our department, for our law enforcement. I think on our end, though, we have to really look into what can we do to support our law enforcement. Our officers go through a lot on a day-to-day basis, their families also. And when you hear about the violent crimes that they're having to address, it really is, it's no wonder where it's a difficult thing to encourage somebody to join the force, because we want them to feel that they're going to be supported and that they will be respected in their capacity. So it's not just the funding. We continue to work on that, and we've continued to support them the way we can. But also, I think, in the everyday, in our communities, we have to be able to respect our law enforcement so that those who want to serve in these positions will be willing to join and willing to do what they can to protect our communities.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Angie, I think it should be pointed out, police officers, departments across the country are going through exactly the same problem. It's really hard. Young people have a lot of choices in what to do and what kind of jobs to take, whether it's IT, whether it's other stuff, where people aren't shooting at you or wanting to fight. They deal with folks. They're social workers with guns, dealing with some of the worst problems we have on people's worst day. And so, they do a great job. We're really happy to work with them. But what they're going through as far as retention and hiring more people is true across the country. And a lot of businesses are facing the same thing.
I want to ask you this question from Shannon Hawaii Kai. It says, why are judges so soft in giving criminals probation instead of jail time? It's a revolving door, and they know that they have more laws protecting them than the victims. When you read about some of the high-profile incidents and you look at the individuals who are arrested, it's usually not the first time they've been arrested. They often have lengthy records. So what would you say to Shannon about this perception that judges are being soft?
Well, I think in some cases they could be tougher. I was the hardest senator when I was a judge for 15 years. And at the same time, that's probably 35 to 40% of defendants, I think, at sentencing should go to prison. The rest have to be put on probation, but that's probably appropriate for them. Now, even when you hear about people having records, they may have had consequences. They may have gone to jail for a number of years or prison for a number of years. And then they got out and they commit another crime and the same thing happened. So I think what's really been scary is there have been some horrific cases recently, acid thrown on people, shootings. And it's not there have always been horrific cases. They just get a lot more attention these days. I know that when I joined the prosecutor's office the first time, there was a case with a guy with a blow-up Godzilla doll in a bar in Waikiki, and a woman came up and patted the doll on the head. He stomped her to death, first in the bar, and then she crawled out to the sidewalk. He followed her out there and stomped her to death. So, I mean, there have been horrible things all along. It doesn't excuse any of it. But I can tell you those cases in the last few weeks, we've had, I think, 4 people convicted of murder. So they're going to go to prison for life. And so they killed the person, so their life is over. But the person doing the shooting, their life essentially is going to be over too. I think the average sentence minimum is like 30 to 40 years. So, you know, it's being dealt with. I think judges could be tougher, but we'll make our case when we try to in court.
Chief, I'd love you to take this one from Tom in Waikiki, who says, how do felons get their guns? It does feel like we're hearing about a lot more gun violence in recent months. What are you finding when you're interacting with these individuals? Are these legally purchased firearms illegal, and where are they coming from?
So most of the weapons that we do encounter on the streets, you know, whether it's through arrest or other types of recoveries, you know, we do search warrants, etc. A lot of these weapons are either going to be unregistered, they're going to be stolen, or they're going to be like those ghost guns. Very, very rarely would you find like a legally registered weapon that's owned by that person that perpetuated it. You know, because for the most part, you know, in general, most gun owners, you know, they do go through a background check, so that kind of calls to her a little bit as far as like most of the people that own guns have a pretty decent record and, you know, are deemed to be trustworthy. So most of the guns that we see out here on the streets, and you know, they're taken in burglaries, etc. You know, flown in illegally through the mainland. So that's, I would say, most of the guns that we do recover off the street are illegally obtained.
And you've been in law enforcement for 29 years. Do you feel like you're encountering more guns than in years past?
The perception is there, and in fact, although like Steve is right, I mean, our overall crime rates are down, but with the exception of 2 categories, which is homicides right, this year and weapons offenses. So we are seeing an increase in weapons offenses.
Right, and that is really our focus tonight, is the violent crimes that you're talking about. I would love, Calvin, if you would take this one. The mayor at his last town hall meeting said police can't be everywhere and the community needs to help. What did he mean by that? How can we help? This is from Bob in Kaneohe. I'm sure you saw that interaction. It made a lot of news. What are your thoughts about community involvement and activism on that level?
You know, when I saw what the topic was going to be, I thought about it, and I got this illustration. So I come home one night, turn on the light, and maybe your house the same way, roaches. I said, oh, wait a minute, I haven't treated for a while. So I see these roaches, and if any of you know Alan Cardenas, his famous phrase is, the problem is not evil, the problem is the lack of light. So I was watching this video on Ever Beach where the community, this church, and other people joined to do this neighborhood walks. And we found, I think, the help of the police department, HPD, has been effective. If you get the right people doing these security watches, it does hamper the people who want to do wrong. So the community is a very important part. I always remember when I first went to Waianae High School, and I was asking the principal, because I'm very involved with the church, who can I bring on campus? This is you can pretty much bring, as long as you sign them in, and then they'll go preaching. I said, okay. So these old ladies, tutus, began to come, about 5 of them, and they walked the campus, and they started just talking story with these kids walking around during class, and they actually had a big impact on these kids that was roaming around.
Yeah. Well, to your point, you know, Pat from Maui says local people have to start taking care of the community, be vigilant of what's going on in the community. Councilmember Okimoto, what are your thoughts about the mayor's, what he had to say at that town hall? No,
and I wasn't sitting present in that town hall. I did hear about it, and I I do think that he wasn't calling people to go and then, become our own vigilante police officers. But I do agree, and this is something that I've, shared in neighborhood boards before. We can't expect our law enforcement to be on every street corner at every time. So take back our communities. What can we do to make sure that our communities are safe? I think the concern now in many communities is they're afraid to speak up or to stand up for what they know to be right. And I think the community really has to just say enough is enough. We're going to take our communities back and do what we can do on our part. And really a lot of the crimes are committed many times by young people. So we have to kind of go back to the homes. What are these youth and these kids, what is being taught in the home? It starts somewhere, and that really is one of the root problems or root areas where if we can get something started at home, we can't expect, I'm a former teacher, we can't expect all teachers and law enforcement to be raising and rearing our children. They carry a vital role in this, but at the end of the day, it's what are the families and the parents and the homes doing to make sure that these youth are being taught properly so that they're not then turning to activities or other things that will then lead them to committing crimes. But I agree. I think it's nice to hear when communities are banding together and they're doing what they can do so that we can support our law enforcement rather than just relying completely on them.
Yeah, and Chief, how do communities safely do that? Because we are talking about violent crime tonight, so you don't necessarily want, the tutus that he's talking about approaching some of these individuals. At the same time, having a presence like that on a school campus, not a bad idea.
Absolutely, and for us, people associate the police work with doing arrests and those kind of more, defense or tactical operations, but for us too, we do take a more holistic approach. We do a lot of community work. We host and facilitate neighborhood watches. We're in the schools. We have different mentoring programs. Right now we have law enforcement tracks at 4 different high schools, and we have a good community policing teams or CPTs that are constantly engaging in the community, especially with our youth, because we want to get the message across. Of course, we're not in the homes, so we do. Hope that the community as a whole does take a more of a active participation in that. But I think that is absolutely true that it's not just we can't arrest our way out of this problem. It's a community approach as well.
Yeah, and there are some deep issues, and Eric and Kailua asked this, which addresses this, and Prosecutor Alma, if you would address this one. How much does the high cost of living play into the rise of violent crime? Are people just on edge, and if so, what can anyone do about that? How many of these crimes are out of desperation? We know that half of our population is living, in the Alice population, which is one car breakdown or medical incident away from losing that car or perhaps not being able to make rent. What do you see of that pressure playing into this trend?
Sure. I think there's a danger, like in COVID, if people are cooped up, that domestic violence cases went up. But generally, either people are honest or they're not. And just because they've lost their job, most people don't commit crimes. We've had tough economic crimes here, economic times in Hawaii, and yet the crime rate went down. So I think it's really going to be everybody working together. So like the chief said, weapons are caught at the scene. They may be stolen. So people need to lock up their weapons when they're at home. It'll also prevent suicides, and it'll prevent young people from shooting each other accidentally. But Pastor Allen, as he talked about, and other pastors on the Waianae Coast are very helpful, and they're getting neighborhood security watches at each of the churches. There are many more honest, hardworking people on the Waianae Coast than there are crooks. The crooks just give it a bad name. So the neighborhood security watches send a message that the good people are in charge. I went to Christmas on the Avenue last year, tens of thousands of people there, not a single incident. So the good people outnumber the folks that are causing trouble. But what anybody can do, if they see something, call 911, don't get involved yourself with something like that. But the community can play a big role that way.
Okay. There's a question from Alex in Waianae who says, why are we focusing on enforcement when there should be more effort on prevention? We used to have diversion programs for youths, juveniles that needed help and attention. Those were eliminated and never brought back. We should reverse this and bring them back. I know you're going to want to talk about this, but you did say that it is budget season. Are there priorities for prevention programs so that we're getting it before it becomes an enforcement issue?
No, great question. And, Deputy Chief mentioned working with the community policing teams, and that's something that I've also been trying to make sure that we continue to support. The department has stated that that will continue, but this is something that has to start at the earlier levels. I mean, the earlier years. They still go into the schools now, and they do educate, and they do their best. And I appreciate, in my district, we have multiple CPTs that they go into the community. So it is, you're right, the prevention is always the best source, but if not the case, if we can't catch it there, then we have to do all we can along the way. We will continue to provide the resources, and I've been able to continue to ask for the resources and put into the budget. And I think for me, you know, when we look at what the root problems are, they're not just going to be, there's no panacea. There's no one way, one reason, and one solution. It has to be a multi approach to it. And part of it really is what we talked about, and I've talked with prosecuting attorney about this, is what can we do to make sure that these repeat offenders are not back on the streets? Because a lot of the violent crimes really, where they're stealing weapons or committing really horrific crimes, they're not the ones that are everyday people on the street. These are people that, for some reason or another, may have been in jail for one reason and have been back on the streets. And we want to be able to make sure that our communities are safe. So while there is prevention, we have to do what we can. We have to do it at the city level, the state level, and the judicial system has to make sure that we're working together. Are we as legislators making the right rules, laws out there so that our law enforcement can enforce them? And then when they catch the criminals, are they able to stay within the prison system so that they're not coming back out and harming people?
You know,
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
If I can add to that, we did resume some of our juvenile intervention programs as well. So we did, you know, a few years ago that was discontinued, but we have brought back like a juvenile, like our evening counselings, you know, counselings with some of the runaways, et cetera. So it has made a difference as well.
You know, one of the programs that you could say is both prevention and enforcement is what we've seen in Waikiki and Chinatown, this geographic exemption. If you could explain to folks who may not be familiar with this about what that is, what it's done, and can we expect that in other communities?
Okay, well, it started with Weed and Seed back when I was U.S. Attorney, like 25 years ago. And the idea is you identify a geographic area, you work with law enforcement, you ask residents what the big crime problems are, and then you address those. And then when it's a safer community, more stuff, community activities, people will feel comfortable. So in that first site, we set up a Head Start program at Kukui Gardens, after school tutoring and then sports program at Ka'iolani Elementary School across from Mayor Wright's. A community center with donated computers at Mayor Wright Homes. So prevention is absolutely critical. And I'd love to see the DOE get the school resource officers back because they can prevent crime before it happens. So the geographic restriction is just one of the tools, but the whole idea is you try to reduce crime and then you have programs to help the community get stronger. So at the beginning, we were having no luck in getting people put on probation, and a condition of probation is the geographic restriction. But a lot of us were very vocal about it. I'm glad to see the judiciary started, so they are starting to grant that more. Now, if a program like that was ever done on the Waianae Coast, that probably would not be a significant part of it, a geographic restriction, because if folks live there, you're not going to chase them out of their community, you're not going to kick them out of there. If somebody from the outside came there to start trouble, that might be a really good tool. But I think it's talking to the community, finding out what the needs are, and then trying to address those needs.
You know, that's interesting because we've seen it be so effective in Waikiki, where we have crime, and you know the numbers, I don't, but we know that the crime rates have greatly reduced ever since that was introduced. I'm interested, the folks who have those geographic exemptions, and for our viewers, that means that for a certain period of time, folks who are caught committing crimes, repeat offenders in certain neighborhoods are not allowed in those neighborhoods for a period of time to kind of break that cycle. But the idea being that, do we see those individuals then perpetrating other crimes in other neighborhoods, or does the crime stop?
Well, there's something about Waikiki, something about Chinatown, that you're going to get crime that will not happen in other neighborhoods. And crime has dropped in the neighborhoods surrounding Waikiki as well. So it isn't that they're getting chased. And the police are really good about not trying to send their problems from one area to another. And what happens is some of those guys will go back in there. And so then they need to get arrested, get their probation revoked, and have that, get a consequence that way. One of the programs that's really helpful is called assisted community treatment, where if somebody has a mental health problem and they're a danger to themselves or somebody else, you can get a petition started, sometimes the defendants agree to it, where they'll take a shot for their schizophrenia. And that really helps their behavior. So as Connie Mitchell, who's a really good community activist, runs the Institute for Human Services, she's been very active in this, and now Waikiki is doing that too. Because as she said, if somebody gets the shot and is much more stable, they may still be homeless, but you can talk to them and you can reason with them. Being homeless is not a crime, but there are certain homeless folks that are committing a crime, and HPD is going to arrest them and we're going to prosecute them for that.
You know, Calvin, the prosecutor just listed a number of programs that are working in other communities. Do you feel like your community has enough of those same resources? We've heard now about why the geographic exemption might not work for Waianae, but is that something that you think that your community members would find appealing?
I'm not really sure, but what I'm thinking, we really need to look at you know, like the HPD used to have the PALS program. In Waianae, when it first moved out, there were a lot of alternative educational programs that we don't have anymore. For some reason, they stopped funding it. But many of them were really good. It was getting to those kids that were on the verge of doing serious crimes, and it turned a lot of those kids around. And the funding just left. And I kept watching that, seeing if it's going to return. So, you know, moving somebody somewhere else is not going to solve a problem.
I think they still do have PAL.
We do.
Yeah, we do still have PAL. My daughter actually is she's participating in it. It's a great resource. Yes. And they do DARE in the school. So
COVID has destroyed a lot of programs, but it is coming back, I guess.
Yeah, we do have the program in full effect.
Chief Horikawa, Mildred Hilo says, why does the government make the police responsible for everything going on in Hawaii? Do you feel like we're asking too much of the officers?
I mean, I know that's sometimes the perception. I mean, it's easy to call 911, and we respond to every call, whether it be a bona fide crime or a cat in a tree or what have you, right? So, but I know it seems, especially with the homeless situation, sometimes, you know, we do address issues, but, you know, again, like Prosecutor Alm said, homelessness is not a crime. So we so we do go in and try to resolve problems, but as far as that's concerned, yeah, I mean, I think we do a pretty good job overall in handling, you know, the important stuff out there, especially the violent crimes and you know.
There's another question for you that I'm interested if you would take. Judith in Honolulu says, with the law that allows people to conceal guns and carry firearms, do you think it will increase violent crime? What about the new law that lets people open carry with other weapons like hatchets? How are police officers going to handle this? You know, we did a program on this topic when concealed carry was first introduced, and there were a lot of concerns that we would have a lot of people carrying guns, and then that could lead to violent incidents. Has that come to pass?
No, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like especially with the concealed carry permit process. So that's an additional layer of background checks and requirements that people have to go through, in addition to even possessing a weapon, you know, legally. So the folks that go through and do get granted the permit to carry, you know, for the most part, these are going to be your law-abiding citizens, good background checks, even your psychological examination. So this isn't the population we need to worry about. And so far, I think we've had maybe one case so far since this process has begun, where I think one person was arrested with a weapon in where he wasn't supposed to be, and he got arrested for that. But you know, we're talking one of like thousands, you know. So for the most part, yeah, we're not seeing the permit to carry owners committing crimes.
Okay.
In fact,
I'm interested, Council Member. Is there enough money for the prevention aspect? You know, because we've talked about the programs, and do you think that this is fundamentally a problem of youth, or because we've talked a lot about young people too, and those are the programs that we seem to be focused on, right. Or do you think that it is a broader societal issue?
If I could just add on to that before
Please.
I answer, yeah, I wanted to just tap on to what Deputy Chief had mentioned, because when we talk about guns and the violent crimes that have been created, done with the weapons. I know that it's natural for our public to be afraid of, the concealed carry or the open carry, but like was mentioned, these are with such a stringent application process, these are not the people that are going to be then committing violent crimes. And it's interesting, I've asked for statistics in the past, so it's 1 out of thousands that have unfortunately committed a violent crime. But these people are going to find ways to acquire any weapon. It's not just a gun. It could be a knife or a vehicle. And that's the unfortunate part. So when we talk about what can we do to prevent, I have worked with the department, my office and I, on what resources they need. That is very important. But I kind of want to go back to what I mentioned before. The violent crimes that were committed with weapons, these people, again, had acquired the weapon illegally. They were actually I think it might have been a part of my district. They had been released out of jail, so they shouldn't have had a weapon to begin with. So these criminals are going to find a way. And so we have to figure out ways that we can we don't need more gun laws, in my honest opinion. We need ways to make laws that make sure that these people aren't going to end up back on the streets. And to answer your question about prevention, I think the council will continue to support the department because we want to keep our communities safe. But if you're asking for specific numbers, I couldn't give it to you. I just know that we had put in requests for CPT, but I know the department said that they didn't need that. We were putting the money where the department feels that they need it for their ability to not just offer prevention, but also maintain the services that they're providing.
Okay. There's a caller who called in and said, in 2020, during the pandemic, hundreds of prisoners were released because of overcrowding in the prison and health and safety concerns. How many of them were able to assimilate into society with a lot of services not being offered because of the pandemic at that time?
The ones that were released, what we wanted always is to get it in front of a judge so we could make a case-by-case determination. Because when you have a law that says, okay, it's a nonviolent crime, fine, but they may have a bunch of prior violent crimes. So as long as we can get it in front of a judge and be able to present that kind of information, I think we can help to keep people in custody. They didn't commit all that many crimes. There were some when you let people out, but with the population we're dealing with, that's gonna happen. And I think we all recognize the homeless problem is a lot worse. That was a very sobering statistic. We just saw like 11% worse than a year ago, in spite of all of the efforts that the city and state are making. One of the things we tried to do when we looked at reinvigorating Weed and Seed in Chinatown is crime wasn't as bad as it was 20 years ago, but the homeless problem is a lot worse. So we started a program called Sudafast, where if they get arrested for a drug possession charge, we're trying to get them assessed at the jail, OCCC, right away and then into treatment. Because if they get into housing, unless they're taking care of their mental health or their drug problem, they're never going to succeed. So we've really got to hit it from both ends. And almost all of those folks are going to end up on probation. So we might as well get them into treatment right away rather than have them sit in jail for several months and then get put on probation and then try to get them into treatment. We've got to be smart on crime as well.
You know, with the treatment aspect that you're talking about, if you talk to providers in the community, they will tell you that there just is not enough treatment. There's not enough facilities. They just don't have the places to send them. So that even if you have the most well-intended judge and you have a willing participant, you don't have anywhere to go. What about that part of the puzzle?
Well, I think the treatment programs, and we have some very good ones here, but they need a dedicated source of funding from the legislature so they know we're going to get money this year, next year, next year, next year, and then they'll expand. They'll add another wing to their component. And I think not everybody needs residential treatment, but I can tell you the homeless people sleeping on the sidewalk in Chinatown, almost all have mental health and drug and alcohol problems. And there is space for a number of them, and we've got to get every single one we can. And we're working with the judiciary to try to get Hope Probation running the way it should, and we're really happy that they're finally open to doing that, because everybody who's homeless who goes to treatment, as soon as they step down from residential to outpatient, they need to have consequences if they start using and there are no consequences, they're going to go right back to the street. Mm-hmm. So we really got to get them from all angles to try to get them sober, keep them sober so we can get them off the street. But keeping them off the street is the real challenge.
Ro in Waikiki has a question that I'd love for you to take, and this is more of a question of how we are dealing with this sort of as a community. It says, are we as a community becoming numb to violence? Sure, we get upset at fatal shootings or beatings or stabbings, but then the feeling fades, and that is just scary. Do you think we're kind of becoming numb to all of this?
I haven't. That's why I stay very involved with my community, and especially the younger generation, the school kids. What we found is very important, and you need to have. Let me. I asked Dole Middle School one day when I took over the education committee. I thought they had a bullying program, right? So I asked the principal, can you send me your bullying program? He emails me back and he says, let me get you this straight, Calvin. We don't have a bullying program. We have a positive incentive program. Makes a big difference. And you turn that school around. This is housing kids, my kind of people. I grew up in the housing. So if you have the right programs, catching them at the right age, and they're getting awarded for positive actions. You can turn kids around by just giving them that positive stroke.
Councilmember, yes.
I wanted to tag on to that. Such a fun discussion for me. You know, when we talk about, you talked about in 2020, when they released those prisons, I was vehemently opposed to that. I was in the state legislature at the time. I was really concerned about, because of COVID, we were now releasing people into the community, and some of them actually committed violent crimes or fatal crimes. I go back to, again, if more judges were like prosecuting attorney we wouldn't have the same problems, because we need to make sure that we get the message out that this is not okay. It's not okay to commit a crime and then be put back on the streets. And when you talk about what can we do if we have full prisons, I think, you know, right now we have criminals who get out on little bail. I think it was Act 231 in 2016 where it went, I think the threshold for theft was 300, now it's 750. So we're making it easier for people to remain on the street when they commit crimes. We hear about the stories of people walking into stores. I actually seen it. They shoplift. When they start feeling like they can get away with these crimes and they become more brazen, they start committing more violent crimes. And although our prisons are unfortunately full, if we allow these things to continue happening, then the types of crimes will continue and then escalate. And I think that's what we need to address. If we continue to just get the slap on the hands and they continue back on the streets, it'll turn to more violent crimes, which will then lead to really safety issues in our communities that we're all experiencing and
I just want
not
to share this.
happy with.
A while ago, the principal at the high school wanted to start a parenting class, and the reason she wanted us to do that was we have dysfunctional parents raising dysfunctional kids, and if we don't turn that around, if we don't teach kids what does it look like to have a good functioning family, we'll never turn this thing around.
Yeah, I mean, I hear people talking about this from all sides, and I want to address her point about the judiciary. You know, we talked about the staffing issues at HPD. I know that you don't have enough prosecutors either. To what extent do your staffing challenges impact your ability to get before a judge and to make tough cases and to do the work that you need to do?
Right now, we're able to cover all the courtrooms. There are a lot of courtrooms to cover, but we're able to cover all of them. We would like to have more because some cases, all the violent crime, other cases, we try to hold the person in custody and in 48 hours investigate the case and get them charged right away. That's immediate charging. We'd like to do more and more cases like that because you get a better response if you can get after somebody quickly. So I think there's, you know, to me, if somebody assaults somebody else, they should go to jail for that for some period of time. You know, one thing that the legislature a few years ago passed a law that any assault on somebody who's 60 years or over becomes a Class C felony. But you have to prove that the perpetrator knew or had reason to know the person was 60 years or over. And of course, that's very subjective. And when people go to court, they want to look good. So You know, the defense attorney is going to argue, there's no way this person could be seen as 60. And that's what it is. So we had a bill at the legislature, strict liability, that if they're 60 or over, that element is proven. We don't have to try to prove that the person knew that. It passed in the House, it died in the Senate. We're going to try to do more time spent with senators in the off season to try to get them to see this is an important really thing. We got to protect our kupuna, because even if somebody looks good or looks better, their bone structure isn't as strong. People are picking on them because they think they can take them. And that's wrong. And so we're hoping we can get the law changed to protect the older folks better.
There's a question here about domestic violence, and we know that in our community we have seen some very high-profile crimes against women. We had the acid attacks that you referenced. We had the mother, Teresa Cachuela, being shot in front of her daughter around Christmas time. And then, of course, we had those horrific murders in Manoa. The caller is saying here, what about the domestic violence? What are we doing to prevent partners from each other and their kids? Not all domestic violence stems from mental illness. What are you seeing in our community when it comes to violent crimes against women? And to be clear, domestic violence can be perpetrated by a man or a woman, of course.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think the domestic violence rates, I think they are reducing. You know, they are decreasing like some of the other crimes. So we don't really see a big change for the most part in that regard. But at the same time, you know, we on the police side, you know, we do have very proactive methods that we do employ. So every single domestic violence incident that we do come across, I mean, it's going to result in either an arrest or a warning, right? And with that too, you know, we do implement a lethality assessment process. So each case, you know, we interview the victim. They go through a checklist of different criteria to assess, you know, how likely they are to get either hurt again, or you know how violent the perpetrator could be. And so that does lead to other programs, etc. So I think, at least for HPD, you know, I think we do a pretty good job in assessing and handling the domestic violence cases. Of course, preventing them, I mean, it happens in the home. It's hard to prevent, but at the same time, we do have a really very good victim advocate network here in the islands that does service a lot of the victims as well.
Okay.
So.
You know, do you think that we're doing enough to protect, especially, you know, those incidents that I mentioned? I mean, these are horrific, violent acts perpetrated against women and children.
I think, you know, it's a constant level that you've got Nancy Creedman, retired from the Domestic Violence Action Center, and she had done a great job over the years keeping this in the forefront of people. And so there are good advocates out there. Our office has it. We're trying to encourage people to call 911, try to, you know, but we're giving them authority more if they want to pursue the case or not, because they know if they're going to get beat up if they go home from appearing in court. So we are trying to work with them. I want to go back one moment to the community, because one of the things I was really happy about is the efforts to legalize commercial marijuana, and it's all about money. You know, we got to be clear about that. The mom and pop stores would get driven out of business about selling marijuana. It's big tobacco. Altria is the parent company, used to be Philip Morris. They're buying into marijuana stores. That's what's pushing it. But the West Side really came out opposing that. And when they showed up and testified, it really had an impact on the representatives to hear from the community members, we don't want this in our community, whether it's former addicts, whether it's just members of the community, because there'd be a marijuana store, you got to think, could be right next to your house. And what about that? Do you want your kids going there? I mean, marijuana is so much stronger than it used to be. We're not against fun. We're not, you know, we're not the cool kids. But back in the day when it was 3%, it wasn't as big a deal. But now when it's 20, 30, 40%, concentrates over 90, it really affects kids' brains in ways that it didn't. It leads to a loss in IQ. If somebody's an everyday user, you have an increased risk of heart attacks. You have increased risks of strokes. It's a different drug than it used to be. And so I was really impressed when the community showed up and testified, and I think the legislators were too. So I really give, I mean, the Senate, more people voted against it, but a lot of folks in the House looked at it, looked at the research, showing more fatal car collisions, more, even violent crime, and more kids having trouble in school. The last thing we need to do is give our kids what's really a powerful drug when we're trying to help them succeed both in school and in life after that.
Well, and we know you and the police chief were in lockstep building that community support.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Okimoto, I'm interested, what are your community conversations like? Not about marijuana in particular, but about violent crime. What are you hearing from people in your community about what they're most concerned about?
Some of the violent crimes that you mentioned, unfortunately, happened in my own community, and for different reasons. They stem from domestic violence. A lot of it was domestic violence, some of it was just random. You know, every community has their own unique needs, but I think every community wants to feel safe, and so they just turn to us, and their concerns stem to what can we do to work with the law enforcement, what can we do? Honestly, a lot of e-bikes, that's one of the main things right now, but for violent crimes, because a lot of them had been committed in my community, that's one reason why they're focusing in that area. And I did mention, even in like I mentioned earlier, what can we do on our own, because we can't have police officers at every moment on every curb. So that's one thing. You know, we have homelessness increasing. My community is unique. It's not in the urban core. We live in suburbia, so it's not the same. But yeah, everything stems back. We have homeless, we have drug abuse. And I wanted to mention, you know, some of those crimes were domestic violence. And that's one thing where the resources just have to be put out there so people are educated, whether you're a victim on the male or female side. What can we do to make sure that you are aware of resources out there? And it's not prejudice based on, you know, socioeconomical your value, because it happens in all types of the community. So in my community specifically, a lot of it is, you know, like I mentioned, the increase in violent crimes, but everybody's trying to just survive every day and work together. That's what I'm finding.
And I'm interested, Calvin, do you feel like your community has enough of a voice? Do you feel like the needs of your community are being addressed, given how many violent incidents we've been seeing along the Waianae Coast?
I think more and more of the community is learning to speak up, right? And the reason they probably came up so strong against marijuana is when I moved out to Waianae in 1980, and I started tracking a lot of these deaths, the bodies found here, it's all tied into drug dealing or somebody crossing the line in this territory. But then the more recent drug, or what I say, it messes up your moral compass. So shooting somebody is nothing. They think this is like a video game. The guy gonna come back to life or something. I'm not sure, but so our community is tight. So everybody talks, and most of our violent deaths tied into the robberies at the gaming rooms and other things. It's all tied into drugs.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't talked about at length are game rooms. Tell us about that is something that comes up constantly. You know, you hear game room raids, but it seems as soon as one is raided, another one pops up. How is the fight on game rooms?
It is tough. I mean, it's sometimes they pop up undetected for a while, but I know with our narcotics vice division, they've been very, very proactive in really jumping into these. So I think about a year ago, we had about 180 or so game rooms that they were tracking. Now that reduced to almost about half. You know, so they've done a very good job in not just identifying them, but problem solving them, getting into investigations, and shutting these game rooms down. And not just on the police side, but taking a more comprehensive approach by using some of the Department of Planning and Permitting to pull some of their permits on businesses as well. So we're using a more comprehensive approach to try to shut these game room down, so these establishments. With that said, too, I mean, a lot of the game rooms they are like a haven for crime. I mean, it's mostly drug fueled. It's although there is gambling involved, of course, but it's a kind of a haven for this criminal element to hang out, get drugs, in a sort of a secure area for them. And oftentimes there's going to be guns involved. So a lot of the game rooms, there's robberies, from one gang to another or group to another. A lot of the security are armed, so there's a lot of shootings between rival gang game room establishments as well. So it is a problem. But like I kind of mentioned earlier, like for us, we have a really good, I think, case closure rate. I mean, all of our major violent crimes, and like all of our homicides are all solved like within the last 2 years, so almost 100% solve rate. Even some of our major like robberies, et cetera. So we do put a lot of good resources. We have a good intelligence network that we utilize mainly through our crime reduction units. So I think with that, plus being an island, I mean, it's we're able to pretty much at least identify and capture a lot of our criminals. But like I kind of mentioned too, I mean, we can't arrest our way out of everything. So no matter what our stats are, no matter how many arrests and cases that we do close, I mean, I think like we kind of mentioned earlier, it's a criminal justice system issue, right? So we're hoping that on the court side, there's good deterrence, and even on the prison side, that there's good rehabilitative programs and efforts that would turn these
right. We've
felons
assigned a
around.
deputy full-time to work with Narco-Vice on identifying the game rooms, using nuisance abatement, and sometimes it's even like the police calling up the game room operator to say, we've identified your location, we're going to take steps to move against it, and they'll shut down based on that. But it is an example that's a prevention thing, and I think the caller was absolutely right. Prevention is so important. So all these schools, kids are going to get in trouble unless they have something to do after school. So whatever it is, whether it's sports, whether it's some kind of activity, I really think we need to invest more in that. So they have things to do, or else they're going to get in trouble.
We have a little under 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure we get to this question from Mary Lee, and I'd love for all of you to take it. I'll start with you. She's calling in from Haleiwa. She says, we're talking about long-term goals, but what are some short-term goals that can be done to protect citizens from violent crimes? What would you say to Mary Lee?
Other than what was already mentioned, taking the community and working with our law enforcement community policing teams, I think every goal can be a short goal. Even our state legislature, they did some really good things this year. A certain Senate bill, I think it was SB 2537 or something, 2347, where we're working on how can we address the root of the problem. So short term, we're having legislation be put into place so that we can keep these criminals, hold them accountable. We need our Judicial Selection Commission working with the governor, and we're putting in the right people in these positions because they will be the ones to now have the judicial jurisdiction over people who commit crimes. So to me, it seems long term, but it's not. There are steps that have to be taken. But I go back to what can we do to keep them off of the streets, and we have to start doing those things.
Officer.
I think as far as the short-term, tactics, I think what would be very helpful is, for the community to get involved as far as reporting. See something, say something. We've got very effective programs like Crime Stoppers. Our 911 dispatch takes calls. We have different numbers for our Narcotics Vice Division, but just to report it in. So because we can't see everything, so if people can report what they do see, I mean that would help direct us to get the proper resources to that. And
huge help.
prevent.
What do you say to Mary Lee? What are some short-term goals to prevent violent crime?
Like you said, what I noticed is, I guess the people in Waianae have gotten to a point where they're going to report it because they're not going to let this thing continue. So they've been reporting more and more. And the other thing I think is starting to happen is we're having more positive programs. So you know how kids are locked up so long, and we noticed when we started to do these positive programs in the community, they show up because they're tired of being locked up.
They want to be together.
They can be kids again.
Yeah, that does sound nice. Prosecutor Ahn, we have about 2 minutes. What would you say to Mary Lee? What are some short-term ways to prevent violent crime?
Well, I want to thank the legislature for passing habitual violent misdemeanor offense. So if they have a number of misdemeanor cases or felonies, we can then charge them with a Class C felony. So if somebody, what people don't realize is you can be beaten black and blue, but if it doesn't break a bone, it's still a misdemeanor. So we do have some antisocial people who will go up and punch people and just assault people. Well, if they have like 3 misdemeanor assault cases, we can then charge them with a Class C felony. And that's important because A, it gets them off the street for a while, and B, because they're going to be on probation for 5 years, 4 years, you can deal with mental health issues, you can deal with drug and alcohol issues. So we're not going to charge everybody who's available for it. We'll be careful. We do the habitual property offense the same way, because there are some people who will steal every single day, and they need to be locked up for a while. And if they have a drug problem, that needs to be dealt with. So just like with the catalytic converters, the legislature did a good job with that. I think it was a really good thing that they passed this habitual misdemeanor violent offense law, so we can try to lock up some of those guys and get their minds straight so they stop assaulting people.
And how long does something like that start to feel effect? Like when do we actually get to see some benefit?
Well, it should kick in, July 1st, like other laws, and then we'll work with HPD to identify the people that are the ones, so the next time they get picked up for something, because if they go into court and plead guilty to a misdemeanor, we can't charge them with a felony. So we got to move really quickly when that happens.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Mahalo to you for joining us tonight. Of course, we do thank our guests, Honolulu Prosecutor Steve Alm and Calvin Endo from the Waianae Neighborhood Board, Deputy Chief Keith Horikawa, and Council Member Val Aquino Okimoto. Next week on Insights, traffic safety, from speed bumps to red light cameras. In recent years, there's been a wave of new initiatives to make our streets safer, but not all are being fully embraced by the community. What's working, what's not, and what still needs to be addressed. Please do join us then. I'm Yanji Denise for Insights. Until next time, aloha.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the